Da, da, da. Welcome to episode 10 of the Culture and Arts Podcast. Say it with me, fellas. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. I'm so excited. I'm amped up.
You
Double
should be.
figures.
Double figures.
There are shows that have not lasted as long as the cap.
This is true. There are shows that... And 10 episodes, do you know what that really means?
What's it really mean?
We have as many episodes now as we have listeners.
Oh, no.
Anyways, my name is Joe Ruiz. Welcome to the Culture and Arts Podcast, episode DACE. And we are going to start with our David Merle check-in for the week.
Hey, you know what I seen on the way into work today? Baby on board.
Baby, on someone's windshield?
Yeah. You probably don't remember that trend. You were probably not born when that was going around.
Yeah, it's like a little triangle sign,
Yeah,
right?
but I don't
Or
think you
diamond.
remember that it would, like, there was a season when those first came out, they were in everyone's car, and then they got, like, more creative. They had, like, different other slogans, like, no autographs, please, mother-in-law in trunk, that kind of thing. And so, and it just took off. And I remember one night David Letterman even declared the fad over. Like, we're done with this. We're done with it. Or
Done
whatever.
with the signs.
I hadn't seen, I mean, have you seen one of those signs in a while? I don't know. It just struck me odd, baby on board.
Not that I've noticed.
So, and of course I drove, you know, a lot safer because they had the baby on board sign. Not really.
That helped you?
Yeah. I mean,
That's good.
you know what I'm
That's
saying?
good that helped. It's like when people have those stickers on the back of their vehicle to, like, denote everybody in their family.
Right. That's true.
And there's like a million spins on that now. A friend of mine has zombies. His
Oh.
whole family, but they're zombies.
Right. That's never something I've desired. You know, and then they add sometimes family pets and stuff. And,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So can I get one in mine and just have it like me sitting there watching TV or something?
Oh, that
you
would
probably
be,
could. That'd be
oh,
great.
now that would
That'd
be
be great.
incredible. I think that'd be a trend. They got people watching TV
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
lonely things you could do, perhaps. You know? So-
Or like the crazy cat lady. There's like one
that-
overweight woman and like 30
100
cats.
Like just cats covering
The
the
whole
windshield.
back windshield is kittens.
So- around the entirety of the car. What about hoarders? You could see like, like newspapers.
I can't even see the person who lives there. They're just covered in trash.
So,
Jason, how are you this week?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Oh, I'm better than the hoarders, I suppose.
right?
By the way, if I've offended any hoarders in the making of this cap episode,
Right.
we
can't
apologize.
we can't be picky.
No,
Yeah,
no.
Hoarders are more than welcome to listen to our.
If you can find your cell phone or your tablet or your laptop or however you listen to podcasts,
Right.
more power to you. I hope you listen to our show.
At the end of the day, all you really need every day is your keys and your wallet.
So how do you guys feel about making it all the way this far so far, 10 episodes in? We'll have this conversation again at like 100.
Yeah, no, I think we'll get excited sooner than 100. 100 will be big, though.
That'll be big. This
Yeah.
is like a milestone.
Yeah.
So you got your brackets filled out, Joe?
No, I've never once filled out a bracket, and I'll tell you why. This whole March Madness thing. Someone asked me yesterday, and granted, I was kind of trolling them.
Okay.
But they were like, so, there's like 16 games today. I was like, 16 games? Why would you watch 16 games? Why do they even have that many in a day? And he's like, are you serious? It's like, yeah, that seems like really excessive. And he goes, well, there were 16 yesterday, too. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me. And he goes, Joe, this happens. And I was like, this is madness. And he goes, well, yeah, it's March Madness. And I just kind of winked at him. I'm like, yeah, I knew what I was doing there.
So I love March Madness. I think it's a great. I think the brackets. I go home every day during these weeks, and I'm checking the scores, checking to see how my brackets are going, and I think it's a good time. I don't watch nowhere near the 60 plus games that are part of it, but it's a good time. And unfortunately, this year, like, no Indiana teams made it, so it's kind of a bummer. But
Jason, are you a bracket guy?
Oh, I'm a bracket junkie.
Bracket junkie.
Oh,
So
yes.
you've got multiple brackets?
Yes.
I have a feeling that you spent a lot of time watching basketball yesterday.
I knew I was off yesterday, so I planned my week out where I would have absolutely nothing going on, and I could
Right.
just sit in my apartment. And
There's just something so arbitrary to me about walking around at work and, hey,
Oh.
how's your bracket looking? Like, it's just so weird to me. And, like, yesterday, multiple comments about brackets, something that any other time in the year would be kind of irrelevant. And, we're all doing a lot worse off after that Duke game, aren't we?
Right.
And it's like, come on. Like, where'd the conversation go? Like the legitimate conversation.
But you don't
It disappeared for this kind of pretentiousness.
But you don't find that kind of fun? Like, I guess what I'm saying is March Madness is one of those things, kind of like the Super Bowl, where even non-sports fans, with the exception of present company, kind of, they give it a shot. They're like, man, if I can, throw out a bracket out there and, and beat all my sports fans at work just kind of by pure luck, that'll be fun. And it gives you something to talk about with people. And, some people even make a few dollar bet on it and that kind of thing.
If I had some money bet on it, I think it would mean a little bit more. Because
Sure.
I would feel like it had something substantial at stake.
Right.
Because I don't like the whole bragging rights thing. It's
Okay.
So I guessed a team that went on in a bracket, and you didn't guess that team, and so that makes me somehow superior.
It makes
to
me
you
smarter than
this
you.
month, and it just doesn't because what happens with these brackets is that you got these first-time guys who have no knowledge of anything that's going on in the NCAA, and they're like, well, I'm just going to fill out a bracket because everybody else is filling out brackets, and I'm just going to do it according to what mascot I like the best or what sports team's colors I like the best. And that person goes on to win the whole thing.
Right. That's what you hope. You kind of, for those guys that don't follow sports, they do kind of want to exploit, see, I don't even know anything about sports.
Yeah, but it turns the whole, you're smarter than me because you made the right guesses thing, completely on its head. And then it just makes it a random, luck of the draw.
I'll say this, though. I went through a phase where I was playing a lot of fantasy sports.
Yeah.
And I've managed to cut out most of
Hi, my name's Jason. I'm a fantasyaholic.
when you play for money, it's no longer fun.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's when it really starts to take. You take it just so seriously that
Now, would all gamblers agree with that?
some people get the thrill from that.
It
Right.
makes it real.
Right.
Yeah, it's just I played a game for money once, and it's like people take it so seriously.
Oh, I forget that.
and
That
I
would
just,
not be fun.
I won't ever do that again.
Right. Have you ever been sitting by, at a sporting event, and just someone that just drives you crazy? Like the last Notre Dame game I went to, this guy thought he was like Lou Holtz or something. He's sitting there, yeah, you don't do this on 3rd and 10. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Just enjoy the game, my friend. I mean, I don't know. It really did take away from me. He was so upset, and so, it really robbed my experience.
In high school, I was at one of our basketball games, and we were actually one of the road games we had went to.
Yeah.
And one of the guys from our class, I'm not going to mention any names, he was screaming for a 3-second violation, every 3 seconds, the whole game. It was like, 3 seconds! 3 seconds! And I'm like, how can you even enjoy a game doing that?
Yeah.
Right.
I've always heard that sports fans and if there's any listeners from this region, forgive me, from the Northeast are the most annoying sports fans. And I can't imagine going to an event, saying Philadelphia, and sitting next to Mark Wahlberg at an Eagles game. You think that the Eagles are going to lose? You think the Cowboys are going to beat the Eagles? Come on, I'm serious here. All right, say hi to your mother for me.
You know what? I feel pretty fortunate as a Colts fan, a Pacer fan. It seems like there's a culture where there's not as I don't know. You can do worse. The Oakland Raiders, for instance.
Think someone would bust a cap.
Something.
What you doing? You think
So-
you got the wrong team's jersey on. You need to leave this place immediately.
So, if we got any listeners from other regions, I just let you know I'm wearing my Colts jersey to your football stadium. Should I do it today?
Well, it would be odd. Aren't they in the off season?
Yeah. That
Not a sports fan, and I knew that.
I knew. Okay, come on. I knew.
David's just sitting out there.
He's like the only one in the stadium.
We got a few months big to go.
Can we move closer to the front row? There's nobody here.
Real tough guy wearing the Colts jersey in the empty stadium.
Right. Well, oh yeah. I didn't say there had to be people or fans there.
Well, for our first article this week, we've got something crazy and zany, much like we do at the opener of all Culture and Arts podcasts. There is, and I'll just tell you the headline right off the bat. Husband locked wife in shed for singing Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead when his mother died.
I don't even know which one to pick on here first. Because, first of all, you got the overreaction of the century. You got the, you got the locking of the wife in the shed, and then you have the most unsympathetic moment that you could
Who
ever
is this
have.
woman?
That's what I'm saying. Ding dong, the witch is dead. There's probably not a more unsympathetic song. I was trying to come up with one. I mean, unless you were just like being cavalier or something, and like, singing like, I don't know.
Happy birthday to me.
Right. That might be unsympathetic.
I actually saw on Dateline the other day there was a woman who was convicted of murdering her husband, and part of the reason they started to suspect her was like a week or two after they determined he was poisoned, she was singing Earl Has to Die in a karaoke bar, which is about a woman who poisons her husband.
Is that the Dixie Chicks song?
Yeah, Dixie Chicks song.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think, are there worse songs you could sing to your husband after his mother dies? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Don't worry, be happy.
right. I don't know. I
Celebrate good times. Come
Oh
on.
my gosh, Cool in the Gang. Right.
And this was in England, I guess.
Right.
But it says, after being locked out of the house, Mrs. Salmon sought refuge in their shed, where she was subsequently locked in by her 42-year-old husband. I just love the way that they word things in these articles sometimes.
True. I'm not really into locking people into sheds, but if I was, I probably wouldn't lock someone where the tools and sharp items are.
It doesn't seem like you plan on keeping them there very long.
Right.
Right. Like, I don't know if that's, where I would go, especially someone that sings Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. I mean, that's cold-hearted. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah, this woman's obviously off her rocker. And there is an extent to which all mothers and mother-in-laws have kind of a funny relationship, right? And I've never heard of a mother and a mother-in-law who just get along famously 100% of the time.
Right.
Because there's always that element of, you took my baby away, and then from the other person's perspective, he's my husband, this is my family, we're going to do things the way we want to do them. And there's always this kind of push and pull between a mother and their daughter-in-law. So, and that's what basically this guy is saying, is that she never liked his mom, and that she never got along with, and so she was not showing him any support while he was grieving, and obviously
I don't know if that's the winning argument for the locking of the shed.
No.
Is there a group of people where it's like, oh, she never liked her? Oh, okay, yeah. Shed she goes. I just...
off to the shed instead of off with her head.
I think that, I don't... Maybe she was just a Wizard of Oz fan,
Yeah.
And, I don't know, just poor timing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt here. Like, maybe she should have sung Ease on Down the Road. Oh, that's the Wiz. See, and
hey, husband, you really want your mother back? Click your heels together 3 times and say there's no place like home.
Right. So, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. See, that would have been a positive song she could have sang, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I'm kind of a Wizard of Oz fan. Are you guys?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those timeless kind of films that if you were to ask me what my favorite movies are of all time, it probably wouldn't come up. But, like, I appreciate that it's there and it's something to show the kids. And
oh, yeah, I think it's, and I'm a sucker for all things Wizard of Oz. Went to see Wicked, and I would like to like The Wiz because my guy MJ's in it, but it's just awful.
It's just not a good movie.
Have you seen it?
Have I seen it? Yeah. No, it's terrible.
Have you seen it, Jason?
I think I started to watch it as a kid, but never finished it.
Who thinks that this is a good idea?
What's that?
The Wiz. I mean, even just to call it The Wiz.
Isn't all things whiz kind of like a bad idea?
Yeah, I think so. Cheese Whiz.
Right, Cheese Whiz.
The Wiz. People are going to whiz all over this movie from now until the end of time.
I like the idea, though, a little bit of a, kind of an urban flair. Is that I don't know, to the,
I get what they were trying to do.
But I think what happens, at least for when I was a kid, I think you're thinking, like, oh, this will be kind of a Wizard of Oz. It's kind of but it's really, it's a whole different category, and that's what you got to understand.
They should have done something to spice it up. Like perhaps if Dorothy had taken the witch and locked her in a shed,
right,
it would have been better.
Right. That couple has some marital problems. I know that's the understatement of the century, but this is just kind of the iceberg effect. There's been a whole lot of other things that are going on.
More updates ahead.
Right.
All right, so David, you gave us an interesting piece that was basically a top 10 list, and that's suiting, since we're talking about the 10th episode of the Culture Nerds podcast.
Right. We were going to try to do a little bit of a theme of 10 regarding our 10th episode here, and I was kind of... So I found coming along, Saturday Night Live has turned some great celebrities down over the years as they've auditioned.
Yeah.
And so here's the actual top 11, for so it doesn't fit our theme, but top 11 people have been turned down by Saturday Night Live. Number 11, Steve Carell. I think he would have been great in that format.
Yeah, I think so too. And he's went on to work with Will Ferrell and some of the other SNL greats.
Right.
Yeah, because his wife was actually on the show briefly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
Was she?
Yeah, because she played the real estate agent on The Office that he dated for a while. And she was on the show for a year or two. I don't think she ever did anything super memorable.
I didn't realize she was in the business.
There seems to be like a celebrity club of people that they just pop out of this fountain of celebritydom, and they all just know each other. They just all know each other. And,
there's like groups in like Chicago and Los Angeles and New York for up and coming comedians, like the Groundlings
True,
and things like
yeah.
that. And when you come up through those ranks, you kind of take care of each other as you.
yeah, that
Right.
makes sense. That makes sense. I should join one of those clubs.
Isn't there a club in Chicago?
Yeah, it's called Second City. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, and like a lot of SNL stars have come up from there.
So, all right. So, Steve, I'm a big Steve Carell fan. I was an Office
he's great.
fan, and so I like to see I like to see him do well. But he went on to do better things. I don't even know who this person is. You have to forgive me. Aubrey Plaza.
she's on she's on Parks and Rec.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So Jason's not going to be stumped. So we'll move on. Number 9, Zach Galifianakis.
Galifianakis.
I don't want him to be on Saturday Night Live because they always have. Have you ever watched the beginning of that show? They never have normal. I mean, with the exception of Seth Meyers, they never have normal names on that show. It doesn't seem like. I mean, or maybe post after the main guys. But I was watching a few weeks ago, and it's like, can any of them have a normal name? I mean, yeah. So Galifianakis would have ruined that. Are you guys Zach Galifianakis fans?
He's done some funny things. I tend to think he plays kind of the same shtick over and over again.
Yeah.
And so, it
Oh,
can
poor
easily
him,
be
making
worn
millions
out.
of dollars with the same shtick.
No, I'm just saying, like, in terms of, being a one-trick pony,
Yeah.
you're only going to think he's funny so many times.
8 Kel Mitchell.
Well, Keenan's on Saturday Night Live currently,
Right.
and they used to be Keenan and Kel.
True.
They did the
Oh, yeah.
Good Burger.
Good,
Yeah.
yeah, Good
Welcome
Burger.
to Good Burger, home
Yeah.
of the Good Burger.
Yeah, his partner there, Keenan, he just kind of, he went from Nickelodeon into SNL and just kind of keeps plugging away. Are you?
I guess basically they had one spot open and those two auditioned against each other.
Oh, really?
I think that's how it said.
Has that hurt the relationship?
I don't know.
Do you think that Kel was ever locked in a shed,
Yeah, he locked him in the shed during the audition.
or would it? Who would it?
Yeah. Keenan's like, ding dong, the witch is dead.
Here's the thing, though. It's so weird to me because, a lot of people start out doing stand-up comedy. They hope to get onto the SNL scene.
Yeah.
They get into it. And then eventually they go on to make major motion pictures.
True.
And that kind of stuff. He kind of went backwards because he did the Nickelodeon bit for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went on to have a few movies. He did Good Burger. He did Fat Albert, And they're not good movies by any
True.
stretch of the imagination. I think he was even in the Mighty Ducks films.
Right.
I think he was on the team.
Right.
But you make these movies, and then you go back to Saturday Night Live, and it just seems kind of like a step backwards. Like, well, maybe if that's your strong
So
suit.
he
but-
actually went back to Saturday Night Live?
Well, no, he wasn't on there before, but he...
Oh.
What I'm saying is, instead of using that as a catapult into films, he was in films.
Okay.
And then he just went to Saturday Night Live after that. So he's ending probably the prime of his career with Saturday Night Live, as opposed to using that as a platform to get off.
Although I will say this about the Fat Albert movie, I didn't hate it as much as I was expecting.
Yeah?
That's about the highest praise I can give it.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be the endorsement to see on the trailer.
That's what you
Jason
want.
Merle did not hate it as much as he thought he would.
The movie review. You should do movie reviews. Jason Merle from the New York Times says, I did not hate this as much as I thought I would.
We need real movie reviews. That would be helpful. So, All right, we got number 7 here, Jennifer Coolidge.
Are you familiar with Jennifer Coolidge?
She's done a lot.
You are not stumping Jason. Holy cow! Go ahead.
She's done a lot of. She's had some small recurring roles on different shows. She's.
Oh wait, is she Stifler's mom?
Yes.
Yeah, she's Stifler's mom from
Yeah.
American Pie, and she's on Two Broke Girls.
Yeah.
Now,
All right.
which
Okay.
my wife is a big fan of.
So, wow. Apparently, I need to turn my TV on once in a while, so that'd be helpful.
Yeah,
She has been a little bit of all over.
Yeah, the person who wants to talk about Saturday Night Live needs to watch more TV.
Well, you got to understand this has been on 39 years. I get this show. So, all right, number 5, Jim Carrey.
he would have been great.
But he was on In Living Color.
Yeah.
True. I think he would have been the SNL cast of all SNL casts. I mean,
Yeah.
they could have stopped the
he
show
was
then.
definitely SNL material.
So, is there? I mean, let's kind of measure this up. Has there been a Saturday Night Live character, or pardon me, cast member, have a better career than Jim Carrey? Has anyone gone? You know what I'm saying? Jim Carrey's been.
He's had a solid career.
He's had a solid career.
He's had some bad movies along with his good ones.
Yeah, he's.
Which is consistent with a lot of SNL
okay,
casts.
you're right.
But
Yeah.
he's had some really big movies,
Yeah.
like the Ace Ventura. I mean, that kind of put him on the map.
Right.
And then he's had some other
a
stuff.
lot of people forget Robert Downey Jr. was on Saturday Night Live. way back
Oh,
when.
okay.
I didn't
Yeah.
think about that. Wow.
Real, I don't remember him on Saturday Night.
But I mean, you don't really think of him as
Was
a
he a-
SNL cast member.
Right.
Was he like their? Was he one of the primetime players, or was he like their?
He was one of those
substitutes?
guys when they kind of dropped Eddie Murphy and those guys in the '80s.
Yeah.
But before they brought in Dana Carvey and
Yeah.
those guys, it was like him and Anthony Michael Hall and
There's one season of people.
yeah, there was
It
like one.
weird.
He was in that group.
There, this has got to be said since we're talking about Saturday Night Live. There was a season there that kind of had the beginning of the '90s crew and the ending of the '80s crew. That's about the best way I can
Right.
tell it. And it had like Kevin Nealon and Dana Carvey, and it had Adam Sandler and Chris Farley. It had just this all-star cast of people that was just amazing. And what's your relationship with like Saturday Night Live? Because for me, like. I kid you not, I remember watching back in the Adam Sandler days and going like, these guys aren't as good as like Dana Carvey and all that.
I think there's a certain chunk of time in your childhood where everything is idealized.
Okay.
And this is for anything. The music's never as good as in that period of time. The movies are never as good as in that period of time. And you always look back to those things. And everything that comes out, you find one that you like here and there. But I think it's probably the same way with SNL characters. I mean, for me, I look back at Chris Farley, David Spade, Adam Sandler. I think those guys were great.
Mm-hmm.
And like Eddie Murphy and them, they were before my time.
Okay.
And so, I don't have the same relationship with them.
Okay. Now, because I remember, I remember, like, it just seems like I would go like, I would root. I'm like, man, Adam Sandler and Chris Farley, they're not as good as these guys. And then when it was Will Ferrell in cast, I was like, man, can we have Farley and Sandler? I'm just like always looking
Will
backwards.
Ferrell is my favorite.
He's grown on me
so
since
funny.
being in movies. I didn't appreciate him as probably as much as I should have when he was on SNL. So I wish I could develop this. I hate the cast now.
There's just not much
I don't
there.
see any of those guys growing up, going to be what the
Yeah,
former
Will
members.
Ferrell on Saturday Night Live, it's much like his movie career now. Some of the stuff he's done has been great.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff he's done has been horrible.
Cowbell is the greatest
is the
skit
greatest.
that's ever.
Yeah.
Mickey and I were watching, they actually had on VH1 last night, the SNL's Best of Will Ferrell.
Mhm.
And I forgot how many hilarious things he'd done.
I loved it when he did his Harry Carey hosting the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
yeah.
good. Now, that was good stuff.
That was great. But like in high school,
It's a simple question. If you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself?
yes. but like in high school, I think the years you were talking about, where you kind of got the end of the Dana Carvey and Dennis Miller, and the beginning of the Chris Rock and those guys, it was can't miss television.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
had to
that's
watch
true.
it, and
That's
we'd
true.
be talking about it all week at school.
Right.
And now it's like, man, I don't really need this.
Dennis Miller was the great, like that news. What do they call it?
Weekend update.
Weekend update. He was the greatest at that. They should call that the Dennis Miller segment because he did better than anyone's ever done.
If I were the producers at Saturday Night Live, I would try to get all of the greatest SNL performers on board and put out an SNL movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree.
You know, but with all-star cast from all generations. So you'd have your Eddie Murphy, you'd have your Dan Aykroyd,
Right.
But you'd have Tina Fey and some of the more recent people that were big.
I always thought they would eventually go there, and they just haven't. I think that would be great if they would have like a superstar cast movie. It'd be probably hard to do because.
Well, I think that they have like Justin Bieber movies and Jonas Brothers movies and Glee movies.
Yeah, you know what?
They do all this stuff.
Yeah,
if you can get away with that, and
Right.
it doesn't even have to be a movie in the sense of like SNL people, on a script and creating like a whole screenplay and everything. It can actually be individual skits, but brand new skits that people haven't seen before. So, like Jackass had Jackass the show, and then Jackass the movies.
Okay.
So there's like 3 of those, and it's the same stuff they would do on the TV show, but you're
Right.
now watching it at the movie theater.
Okay, fair enough. I think I would like the model if you came up with a creative format where they could all be on the same film that's actually a story. But
Yeah.
I mean, they could do based when
But
you.
it's dangerous because when you have too many celebrities in one movie, sometimes it becomes Valentine's Day or that New Year's Eve movie that came out.
Apparently, all movies holiday.
He's just not that into you.
So no, I'm with you.
You know what I mean? Like you just pack too many people.
I-
X-Men 3.
Right. People
into
can
one
only
movie.
get so much. People can only get so much screen time.
Yeah.
That's a bad sign for the next X-Men movie. Then.
Right.
Right. and I think if you're a fan, like if you're going there, like, and you're wanting to see like a lot of Will Ferrell or a lot of whoever the person is that you want to see, I think that could be problematic because you're like, man, it just had like Seth Meyer the entire time or something. You know what I'm saying? Or Horatio Sands. Yeah.
I don't think Horatio would be included in the movie.
So no,
Yeah.
he was your typical B SNL character.
Yes.
Again. So all right, we'll move on. Number 4, John Goodman. He's a decent. He's a funny dude, and he's hosted numerous times. So they've kind of embraced him in SNL culture. But they turned him down. He went on to do Roseanne.
I'm just going to go on to say...
I can tell by the look on your face, something about John Goodman disgusts you.
No. It doesn't disgust me. I just don't think he's funny.
Okay.
I don't think he's SNL funny. Robert Downey Jr. either. I don't think he's like funny in the SNL sense of funny. Those two are more what I would consider like real actors. More so than comedians who are playing in a film. They're like legit.
I'm sure that Mike Myers is sitting back going, yeah, you're right. I'm not a real actor like John Goodman.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're a comedian who makes films.
Fair
I
enough.
think that
I can
there
buy
is
that.
a difference, Like, you don't look at John Goodman's performance in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and you put that in the same league as Will Ferrell in A Night at the Roxbury. That's just two different things.
True. Now, John Goodman, though, has done some classic characters. Isn't he one of the Super Bears fans? They Bears, isn't he one of those guys?
Yeah.
And then he also went on the Blues Brothers. He kind of, has done
He
the
took
Blues.
over.
He took over there, so he's done some classic kind of SNL stuff without even being like a cast member, and he's hosted like 400 times.
Mm-hmm.
But I get what you're saying. Some of these guys are real. Robert Downey Jr. is obviously a real actor.
He is a legit actor.
He's legit.
Yeah.
He's legit.
That guy could play Tony Stark, and then he could go play something from Shakespeare.
So
And it'd just be like, well, that's just Robert Downey Jr. being an actor.
you lost me at Tony Stark. I mean,
Ah,
The mere mention of a comic book character.
so
such a hater on the Marvel stuff.
So number 3, Lisa Kudrow
From Friends.
from Friends. Yeah,
Yep.
she probably could have. I mean, I don't think that would have been her bag. She wouldn't have retired, but she could have done it. I think
She would have been like a Sherry O'Terry
right,
or
yeah.
someone, who
Yeah.
like he had some funny stuff as a supporting person,
Yeah.
but they didn't make anything iconic.
Can I be? I'm not an Amy Poehler fan, to be honest.
I like Poehler when she's with Faye, not so much when she's by herself. However, I've seen like something on E! They did a special about her and Tina Fey where Poehler was essentially one of, I guess she was the funnier one in terms of all the writing and the behind-the-scenes stuff. Like Mean Girls, everybody knew that was Tina Fey's movie, and she kind of put it together. But I guess Amy Poehler not only wrote her character's stuff into the movie, but she also coached a lot of the other actors behind the scenes on how they needed to present certain lines.
No, I'm not trying to be a hater, because I know that some of these, obviously I try to give these people who, get out there and do this, they have some ability, and there's probably some behind-the-scenes stuff that I don't see. I just think it's just, I'm not too, she's not a reason that I'm rushing out to the theater to see something. And I can see she does a good job with her kind of little shtick or whatever, and she's found probably a good spot for her in Parks and Rec and stuff. But I'm not the president of the Amy Poehler fan club. So
who's next?
Number 2 is Dave Attell.
I'm not real familiar with Dave Attell. I understand he's like one of those filthy comedians.
Yeah. I think I've seen probably 30 minutes of his work in my entire life. You a Dave Attell fan, Jason?
Never could get into it.
All right. Hey, how'd this guy end up being number 2?
Yeah, it's weird.
So, and number 1, Gina Davis. Kind of.
Does anyone see her as a comedian?
So,
Not really.
I mean, did she
played,
put in
like,
her app the same day she put it in at Baskin Robbins? I mean, what was
I don't know.
like just walking down the street? Give this a shot.
I liked her in A League of Their Own, but she
Yeah.
wasn't funny at all. She was just. a
Yeah, I
character.
think SNL made the right move here, wrong move with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Now, except maybe they're just like, we can't handle talent that big. So
Jim Carrey kind of had a special thing being part of In Living Color, though, because he was like the only white guy.
he did. He's done some. And you look up some of his skits where he did Vanilla Ice and Snow and some of the Rocky Balboa. He did some funny stuff over
Fire
there.
Marshal Bill.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That now. I guess you remember talking about SNL, but when In Living Color was on, that's what I remember people talking about all week at high school. And I was not an In Living Color fan. I don't know, I just didn't get it or something. Like, it just wasn't my thing. So,
I watched it for Jim Carrey.
Oh, okay, fair enough. You like Jim Carrey. So we had a friend that could do a pretty good Fire Marshal Bill. It was pretty. So, and that's it. That's the top 11 Saturday Night Live cast members that could have been.
There were some good ones in there. There were some not so good ones in there.
Right. I wanted to be a Saturday Night Live cast member when I was in high school. So,
yeah, I think it would have been a fun gig.
that has to be an incredible gig. You have to probably be funny to do that show. So, well, I don't know. There you have some guys that don't qualify, I think.
And since we've now completed this list of the top 10 Saturday Night Live actors who were, I guess, rejects from the SNL cast, we are going to move on to our own. We've devised this, and it was David's idea last week, where he said for the 10th episode we should create our own top 10 lists and have a discussion based on that, rather than having a discussion based on the articles and stuff that we can find that are kind of crazy online. So we've all kind of put something into the pot, and we're going to start with Jason. Jason, what's your first top 10?
Okay, my first top 10 list is the top 10 weird sports teams names.
Oh, very good.
And the reason I came up with this is one of our listeners, Tom McDonald, sent me a note that the Japanese national soccer team is sending a mascot along with the team to the World Cup, and the mascot is Pikachu.
What? From Pokemon?
From Pokemon, the giant yellow electric mouse is going to have a blue Japan jersey on. So I did some research to try and find out some of the other crazy mascots.
Okay.
All
So
right.
these are actually the top 10 crazy mascots? Is that what we're going up against
Yes.
here?
Okay. Number 10, the Long Beach State Dirtbags.
Oh, that
What?
is great.
That is exclusive. It's exclusive to their baseball team. They call their other teams the 49ers, but they call the baseball team the Dirtbags.
That is my new favorite team.
It's almost appropriate for a baseball team.
Or-
The Dirtbags?
Yeah, because they call the bases bags sometimes, and they're playing on dirt. So
Oh, I guess that
Dirtbags.
makes sense. Okay.
Okay, now number 9. Now, when you're trying to name a team, you're typically going to come up with something that might be like intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one really missed the mark. The Cleveland Infants. this was a baseball. This was a baseball team that only existed for one season back in 1890.
the Cleveland Infants.
And they
All
only
right.
lasted for one season because, well, a few things. Every time they lost, they cried.
Yes.
Right?
And they had to stop after, every hour for a bottle and a nap.
Yeah, nap time. Number 8, Amherst College, Lord Jeff. They named their team after Lord Jeffrey Amherst, who was known for sending his enemies blankets that were infected with smallpox.
Oh.
And what makes the name so weird is, their men's teams are called the Lord Jeffs, so they have to call their women's teams the Lady Jeffs.
I want nothing to do with the smallpox blanket sending.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
I mean,
okay.
that's worse than Ding Dong, your witch is dead.
You think
but
so?
Smallpox?
It's all bad. It's just
Yeah.
all bad.
Yeah, but smallpox would be a whole different level of evil. Go ahead.
Number 7, the Scottsdale Community College Fighting Artichokes. And their fans
Holy cow.
The Fighting Artichokes.
and their fans will chant during the games, "Go Chokes." Which is weird because choking in sports is a bad thing.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
And then this little added nugget here. One famous alumni of Scottsdale Community College, David Spade.
No way.
He
You
choked
know-
at a certain point in his career, too, didn't he?
Yeah, I was never a fan of him.
He was great with Chris Farley. When Chris Farley died, so did his career.
Yeah.
Except for Joe Dirt.
I love the idea someone went to community college is making it, or has at least one punt made it big. That's great.
Number 6, this is a high school, the Waters Meet Nimrods.
Oh,
Waters Meet?
It's somewhere in Michigan. I think it's pronounced Waters Meet.
Waters Meet? Oh, my gosh.
And they called their
Nimrods.
team the Nimrods.
But they're from Michigan.
What's
what you said?
Nimrod after? I think there's a biblical character named
Well,
Nimrod.
I think that's what it was. They were referring to Nimrod in the Bible, which is like a great warrior or hunter or something, and just basically ignored the fact that a Nimrod's also a dumbass.
Right?
That's what they should have been.
Yeah. Waters Meet dumbasses.
So sorry to our Waters Meet listeners.
Number 5, this is a minor league baseball team, the Akron Rubber Ducks.
The Rubber Ducks.
Apparently there's something about baseball teams in Ohio that
Right.
just have crazy names.
Right? You think Ernie is their,
Their team manager.
is their team manager, and
You think we're going to win the game today, Bert?
and they also play the Columbus Paperclips. That
Number 4, the Evergreen State College Gooey Ducks. I actually had to
man, these ducks.
I had to actually Google what a gooey duck is. It's some kind of a clam.
Okay.
But
They're like, well, the Mighty Ducks did really well. We should just use ducks, but have our own adjective in front of it.
right.
Any adjective plus duck. I
Yes.
don't know.
Okay, and another added note, 2 famous alumni of Evergreen State had a big impact on TV in the 90s. Michael Richards, who played Kramer on Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And Matt Groening, who created The Simpsons.
Wow.
Some famous
They were
gooey.
both gooey ducks.
They were both gooey
Famous
ducks.
gooey ducks. All right.
Okay. Number 3, this is a high school in Frankfort, Indiana. The Frankfurt Hot Dogs.
Oh yeah,
I love that name.
Well, I guess it kind of makes sense.
my drama teacher.
It's not intimidating.
Not intimidating.
My drama teacher, give him a shout out, Mr. Clausen. He was a Frankfurt hot dog. Okay. He was in the most recent. Most recent Oz Great and Powerful. So go ahead.
I guess it could be intimidating depending on the size. Of
Oh
the
my goodness! I knew. I saw that from a mile away. So.
Number 2, this may be the creepiest one I could come up with. There's a soccer team in Bern, Switzerland, whose nickname is the Young Boys.
Oh my!
And understand, in Europe, they typically say the nickname first and then the city, so you would actually call this team the Young Boys Bern.
The Young Boys Burn.
And I'm just wondering if people are driving around in Switzerland with bumper stickers that say, "I heart young boys."
Didn't your boy Michael Jackson have that bumper sticker?
I have nothing. I have nothing. To say.
And number 1 on the list, this is my all-time favorite. There used to be a hockey team in Macon, Georgia, a minor league hockey team called the Macon Whoopie.
Chuck Woolery, the mascot officially. So, the Macon Whoopie.
Wow.
Chuck Woolery. You ever watch that show? The Newlywed Game, Joe? That was before your time.
Yeah, no, I remember that they called making Whoopi. That was,
Chuck Woolery was Love Connection.
Was he?
Who was? That's right.
That was,
Jason busting me out. Am I incorrect?
Bob Eubanks.
Bobby. Okay. My bad.
So the making Whoopi though, I wonder what their pep rallies were like. Do you think it was crazy? Was it like Sodom and Gomorrah at the stadium, or?
I think any of these mascots, like, I don't know, how do you get it? Ladies and gentlemen, the Fighting Artichokes! I mean,
the Gooey Ducks! Your starting lineup for the Gooey Ducks, everybody!
do you think, like, if any of these two teams played each other, like, people just be, holding their foreheads, like, oh my goodness. You got a list, Joe?
That was a great list.
That was a good list,
I don't
Jason.
think I can top that.
So
I put together the top shows that should have ended way sooner than they did.
okay.
And I started out with the show Supernatural because they were supposed to end it 3 seasons ago, and it's still going. They've renewed it for a 10th season, and it's just one of those things where the story is kind of getting bland and overtold, and you wish that they would just let a dead horse lie, I think.
That's what happens with some of these shows that just go on, and there's been far too many. They try to milk that audience that's just going to always tune in to Supernatural, and then they just ruin the show.
Yeah.
It just, goes downhill for the destruction.
And I have this problem where once I start a show, like especially if it's really good initially, I'll finish it out,
Right.
no matter how long it goes for, because I started it. And Supernatural is one of those. My wife and I watch it, every week, but it's gotten to the point where it's like, well, we'll just watch it on demand, and sometimes we'll be a week or two behind, and it's just kind of when we get around to it, as opposed to, like Lost, where we had to be home every Wednesday night to watch that show and make sure that we saw it.
No, I'm the same way, and I've done that. I've not watched a lot of shows like religiously, but when I've started them, I watch them to the end, and the couple I have seem to have eventually just kind of went too long. We'll have to see if they make your list here.
Yeah.
I'm sure one of them did.
Number 9, I put True Blood. I don't know if either of you are familiar with the show. Started out as a vampire show. Okay, there was a lot of vampire shows at the time. It was in the Twilight, and it was an HBO show, kind of graphic or whatever. But it was about vampires. But then, as the series has progressed, and they're on like season 5 or something, I think, and this is going to be their last season. Thank God.
Right. Okay.
But they have introduced not only vampires, but werewolves, werepanthers.
Werepanthers.
Yeah, fairies, and all sorts of crazy creatures, and like all of a sudden everybody has a power of some sort. Everybody is some supernatural element. So it's not like at first it was like one person or two people who had some sort of supernatural quality in a world of other humans.
Okay.
And now it's like there's no humans left. Everybody's got something.
Kind of got just sidetracked from.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
ridiculous.
the Werepanthers could have probably made Jason's list as well.
Yeah, I
Wouldn't
would have
it?
put that on there.
Yeah.
The Werepanthers.
The bad sports teams.
So, a Werepanda would be even worse. So,
Werepants.
but
Number 8 I put down was Grey's Anatomy, which is still in the air.
okay.
It's just one of those things where they've changed casts like every 2 years or something, and they'll keep a couple of them, but everybody else
That's kind of a
will
lady
leave.
show, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I watch it.
Right. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have expected anything
Yeah.
less.
Okay. Okay. And crime dramas, and I put them all in the same category. So CSI,
Crime
All in the same.
dramas.
CSI, Law and Order, NCIS.
I think.
They've all been on for double-digit years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's.
But do they have a following? Is the show? I mean, I guess there's no one that has, outlived any of these shows or something. Like, I guess I didn't know. Are they quality still? Like,
I don't know. I never watched them, but
Yeah,
I just feel like there's only so much you could do.
I would think so, but I do think there are shows that have formats that kind of can be repackaged every year. I did not like ER, but it was kind of on forever, and they changed cast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made your list or not, but I do think there's certain shows that have that ability to introduce a new cast member, get rid of another, introduce different stories, maybe be a little more culturally relevant. And I would think crime shows could probably do that, but I'm done with them. I share your sentiment. Can we just decide we're having one crime show, and this is the one you'll go to?
Number 6. This might surprise you. I put Roseanne. down for number 6.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I can see that because wasn't the last episode like they won the lottery or something? And spoiler alert, in case
In case you haven't seen Roseanne.
but you know what I'm saying, just drug out and like.
Well, my rationale for putting it on the list was that John Goodman's character, Dan, eventually died.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that anytime you take one of the top 2 characters and they die, you should just find a way to call it quits and bow out.
Right, especially
Don't try to continue the show.
Especially on a sitcom when your show is so character driven. Like people turn in to watch these characters that and the kind of the crazy thing they get into that week. It's not sitcoms aren't about the overall. Oh, I wonder how broke Roseanne will be next week.
Right.
I mean, so
well, it's kind of like that 10 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter or something. And John Goodman, or not John Goodman, but John Ritter was the main character. And then when he died in real life, they tried to push on for a little while,
right,
and continue the show. I think the show should have just call it quits. You find a way to bow out.
No, I'm with you, but I think these networks try to, like, if they think there's just going to be a glimmer, like sometimes they only need a certain amount of ratings,
right?
And if it can just get that like low number, they got a time slot they can throw it in, right. And so unfortunately, it's just like it's kind of low standard driven marketing, I suppose.
Especially with sitcoms, they're trying to kind of look at the ratings even differently, where if a show may be getting low numbers, but maybe does well in one specific area, like I saw an article the other day that said New Girl, even though its ratings have dropped like 60%, it still does really well with like women who went to college, so they can market that to their advertisers. It's like,
I think New Girl is hilarious.
I love New Girl.
I watch it all the time. This is one that I know you know. You'll probably know it too. I put Quantum Leap.
I get it.
Okay.
Because the last season they broke their own rule, and that's normally a good sign when it seems like when the show seems to be entirely different than the years before. The last few seasons they introduced a few things. He could leap outside of his time frame, and that had been something that they had never done before. And then they introduced this evil leaper thing. And so I think it was just like, what is going on here?
I will say this in defense of the last season of Quantum Leap. That's when he started leaping into more like real people, like they did the Lee Harvey Oswald episode, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
There was one he leaped into Elvis.
Yeah,
okay.
And I thought that was a kind of a cool twist.
And then there's a Marilyn Monroe episode. He wasn't Marilyn Monroe,
right,
I don't think.
I get what you're saying though about breaking their own rules.
Yeah, I
it
think
was such a great show. Overall,
it was a great show overall, and I think at the end, the last, they were just trying to have fun. If we can go anywhere in time, we need to have fun.
It would have been better if they had a vision, like a start and a finish.
True.
Where we know this is where we're going to go, and this is what's going to happen at the end.
That's true. I think the one thing that was wrong with Quantum Leap, it truly was, fix this week, fix this, and it was very episodic. And so it would have been interesting if there was, like, somehow, I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing this out there, but where there was a story arc inside of that, and maybe it was simply like he was beginning to figure out how to go home. Mm-hmm. I hated the ending. Spoiler alert. But that he just continued leaping.
But, part of the reason the ending was so bad was the producers had been told by NBC they were getting another year.
Okay.
And then they pulled the plug at the last minute, so they couldn't really end it the way they wanted to.
Okay.
Oh, and how were they going? Were they going to send him home?
Well, I didn't read how they were going to end it, but one thing they were going to do in the season they thought they were getting was they were going to send him in space at one point.
Oh.
Just to do something they hadn't done before.
Okay. Now, that would have been neat. We, the last episode was creative. I thought that was a neat idea that he leapt right into the moment of his birth and some other things. So talking about a 20-plus-year-old show today, Link, on the Cap.
It was a favorite of mine as a child.
Mine too.
I loved it.
Mine too. I had to catch it every Wednesday. So.
Number 4 on my list was Scrubs.
Scrubs.
Yeah, I was a big Scrubs fan.
I was too.
Yeah.
How long was that on?
I don't know how many seasons.
9 or 10 years.
No, okay, that's a long
time. But then they tried to create like a spin-off show where they, instead of them in the hospital, they were now teaching at a teaching hospital.
Okay.
So it revolved around kind of a new set of characters, but it still had the old characters in kind of a mentor role.
Okay.
and that was the last season,
Yeah, because
and it was not good.
the last, I think maybe 2 seasons, maybe 3, it switched over to ABC, and they just should have ended it there at the very least.
It was kind of the aftermath of Scrubs or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
yeah. So if your show's done, don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
You know,
But the one-
especially if it's got such a big following.
That's true. And if I was an actor or writer on one of these shows, and especially if I loved the art, what I was producing, I wouldn't want to see it.
Don't compromise it.
Don't flush it down
Yeah,
the drain.
and the other thing is, Scrubs was a show that it was never like a huge ratings hit. It was always kind of that borderline show. Is it coming back next year? And so I always kind of thought it was an odd choice that ABC wanted it so badly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, number 3, I picked Prison Break. Either of you ever watched that show?
I never
Nope.
did watch it.
Okay, let me tell you about Prison Break. Prison Break's first season was phenomenal. It had the potential to be one of the greatest shows ever.
Okay.
And I'm telling you that if they would have ended it after season 1, which, again, spoiler alert, they escaped from the prison, you would have been, as a fan of this, you could have called it a miniseries or whatever, you would have been excited.
Right.
Yes, they got out and all
Right.
this stuff, right? Season 2, they were on the run. So they get down to somewhere in South America.
Okay.
And they're on the run the entire time. And, it's still suspenseful and everything. And, it's not too bad. But they could have ended it after season 1. Season 2,
Wow.
at the end of season 2, they get put back into prison in some, South American prison. Where basically the inmates run the prison. And the
Okay.
guards just stand outside with guns to make sure nobody gets out.
Now, I actually thought when you said that True Blood at 5 years, I'm like, 5 years and it overdid? But you're saying this Prison Break at 1 year.
At 1 year.
So, but I can see it.
It could have been the greatest movie ever.
Because, okay.
At one season.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Because it sounds like they just kind of rehash, what are they going to escape from
Yeah.
this year? You know?
And and then they started just creating all this other stuff. Now I will say that for everything that they did wrong, the way that they ended the series when it got canceled,
Yeah.
they did it really well.
Okay.
So, and they ended it after season 4. So for all the flubs and everything that they got wrong, the ending was very appropriate and it was very, very well done.
Okay.
But the acting was phenomenal. They had some great cast of characters, and most of them were people who they really hadn't developed huge names for themselves,
Mhm.
so you believe these characters. And it was just a great first season. I wish it would have stayed at that. So they could have ended it way sooner by just calling it a day after season 1.
Okay. All right.
Number 2 on my list, American Idol.
Yeah, I get it.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
I would like to see American Idol succeed, though, but I don't know if The Voice is just consuming them or something, or what the deal is.
Have you watched it this season at all, American Idol?
No, see, and that's probably part of the problem. There's a lot of people not watching it.
Yeah,
But,
I've watched.
I haven't either.
I've watched a few minutes here and there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what's the deal? Why is it going downhill? Are people just? It's just not novel anymore.
It's just
done.
wore
They
out
got-
its welcome, and there's so much competition. And
Yeah, they got rid of Simon or whatever.
And I think ultimately, most of the people that go on American Idol typically don't amount to much, and so it's not.
Right.
In the beginning, you really didn't know what to expect with their careers, and then Kelly Clarkson hit it big, so you kind of thought,
this is legitimate.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then it just after a point, it's like
They've had some pretty legitimate acts come out of that. Some not. So
Right,
much,
but more not than legit. Right?
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah, but
So it's kind of like we'll throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks.
they've had some incredible stuff stick.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, have any of the other shows produced? Now that being said, even the ratings down. I couldn't even name you a celebrity that's come from The Voice or any of these
Right.
other shows that are out there.
No.
At least you could name
The probably the most popular one at this point that comes from The Voice is a country act right now, whose name I can't
Escapes
even
you.
really recall. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, but she's got a great song on the radio. I just don't know if she'll go too far beyond that.
I think that they're trying to. I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't know if they're trying to get Idol to go back to its former glory, or if they're just trying to keep whatever ratings they do. Because I do think it gets some good ratings, just not its former glory. I mean, it used to be larger than anything on television. So
The thing about The Voice is you watch it for the coaches, you watch it for the celebrities.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's
and
true.
So the talent competition aspect of it almost becomes secondary. With American Idol, granted everybody wanted to see what Simon was going to say next,
Right.
but they didn't have celebrities on the panel, unless you count Paula Abdul, which most people by that time didn't.
Right. She was kind of. I mean, she was L list at the time.
Yeah.
So
And so, I mean, here you just have people from the music industry with this experience who are judging these, wannabe musicians or whatever. So it was allowed to become about the contestants.
true.
You can't do that on a show that's all about your celebrity panel.
Now that's true, and I think you're right. I think that people are enjoying watching Usher and Shakira, and
I always enjoy watching Shakira.
right. And so I think you're right. Somehow they've made that show about the judges, and I do think Idol's tried to follow that lead by putting Harry Connick Jr. and whoever else they got on the cast.
Keith
now.
Urban.
So
And Jennifer Lopez.
yeah. So I think they're trying to make it about the judges, but they're not succeeding.
Yeah,
No.
the judges on American Idol this year, I really like them. They do seem to kind of really want to coach and mentor.
Right.
But it's just, I just think the show's been on so long.
But when they've gone through this mix of people, on the panel, it's like every year it's like, well, ratings are down, so we're going to introduce this celebrity and this celebrity in hopes that it'll pick it back up. When really the formula is make it about the contestants, because you're either building a platform for no names to catapult into stardom, or you're building a platform for ratings.
That's true, and I do think that's why people tuned in at the beginning. People tuned in because they were like, these are people like me that are getting a chance to be famous.
Yeah, it was kind of the American dream, so to speak, on TV.
And I think people, now this is going to sound weird, but they've got rid of where people are, they don't show the people failing as much anymore, like the horrible singers.
Right.
And they used to show that a lot. And I think people actually tuned in to see what kind of awful mess they were going to see. And then by that time, they were kind of hooked by a few.
Right.
And so they've kind of eliminated their on-ramp. And people are, so they're like, well, they're not going to show the funny acts when they're auditioning. And guess what? People don't want to see good acts audition. People, you know what I'm saying? People want to see good acts like in good acts. And so that's what they want to see. They want to see the funny people fail and then move on. And they've just changed their format enough, and it's not novel enough. People feel like is there a little bit of been there, done that? Like, oh yeah, we see,
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know this, but I auditioned for American Idol.
You did,
and I flew out to San Diego. Jason's looking at me like, what?
I had no idea.
I flew out to San Diego, and I went out to the Chargers Stadium, and I spent 2 days in line so that I could walk up and sing for somebody for 15 seconds. And then what they do is they line up these tables, and you have to go through like 3 pre-screenings prior to getting in front of the celebrity judges that you see on TV. So when you see the really awful auditions, those are people that they have passed through simply because it'll make for good TV and not because they think that they're good singers. So they have to have a ratio of really bad auditions and only a handful of the really good auditions that can potentially make the show. They get passed through. So it's just interesting to me because you really get a chance when you audition to see that it is a TV show first and a talent competition second.
Yeah, you got to understand that. Yeah, that's true. You know, when we first met, Joe, I asked you, when we first met, I asked you, what's your favorite football team? You know, and not knowing you yet, you go, oh, the Chargers. But you kind of did leave, and then and then you're like, and then I think you felt like you had to have an answer or something.
Right.
and then like a few seconds later, you're like, but. And then you kind of explain, like, but I really don't, I just, like, if I had to pick one, you kind of explained your love or whatever. So.
There was a period where I was like, you know what? I was like, sports is such a highly accepted part of culture, and it's such a big, and so I tried to be that guy for a minute. And I was like, I'm just going to pick a team, and I'm going to watch their games, and I'm going to support them. And because my sister lives in San Diego, and I just love the area and everything, I was like, and I've been to Qualcomm. I was like, I'm going to go for the Chargers. The that was just, I don't know, man. Like, I couldn't even keep up with the amount of games that were on
Wow,
TV.
in football, there's only
I know.
16.
One game a week for 4 months.
I couldn't even keep up. It's just too much. Like, yeah, ain't nobody got time for that.
But the amount of TV shows you've seen is pretty incredible.
It's different every time.
Sure.
You ever seen an interview with an actor, and one actor can go on to do multiple different things?
Oh, yeah.
And have you ever listened to an interview with a sports player? They are the most terrible interviews ever. Well, I really felt like it's a team effort. I mean, if we can just all come together with the support of the coach and, under his direction.
But
it's like the same stuff every time.
True, but you don't watch the game to see the interview. Like, man,
No.
I hope he nails this. It's not like professional wrestling.
No, but it's a 50-50 chance no matter what game you watch. Either one team is going to win or the other team is going to win. Now, if they
That
could
is
somehow,
true.
if they could, and that's what's bothersome. With a TV episode, you never know which way it's going to go and which way it's going to evolve. And if you put 5 football teams on the football fields and you somehow created like a Royal Rumble of NFL teams, then I would be all about it.
Well,
because
I'd be
this
all
is
in.
going to be extremely unpredictable and random, and there might even be a fight or two.
You could have a Royal Rumble of about anything, and that'd be where it's run. The
Oh, yeah.
Royal Rumble of daytime soap opera actors, and that
Yes.
I would watch.
Yes.
That, so
Susan Lucci's not going to lose this time.
did we get to your number one?
We didn't get to my number one, but you'll appreciate this, and this is probably yours. Number one is Smallville.
Definitely. It was a great show till they got rid of Lex Luthor, and then they just...
and he was the best actor on the show.
Definitely. Then they flushed it down the toilet.
Lana Lang eventually became an extremely irritating character.
Oh, my goodness. And then
I wanted her to die.
when they married... And I actually think the show started to go... I get it. I think the show started to go downhill when they had Lana marry Lex. That was kind of a weird move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it did change the relationship between Lex and Clark forever. So it kind of... Like, you were kind of like, how's this relationship going to fall apart to the degree that we know that eventually does? And Lex marrying Lana certainly aided in that.
Yeah. And then they were like, well, we're gonna start introducing all these other DC Universe characters, and we're gonna try and make this like a mini, a universe as opposed to just about Clark Kent. And then Chloe, who was arguably the most annoying person on the show for a long time, all of a sudden had like special powers. And it's like, what is going on right now?
I didn't hate Chloe, but she just was, I don't know, it's just, she became so crucial to the whole show, and it was just kind of like, wait, I thought we were watching, Superman, Clark, Superman, Lois Lane, maybe Lana.
Mon Pa Kent.
Right.
Yeah, those are the
Lex.
They are vital.
Lex, Joey, or, like, what?
She was one character on the show that wasn't, like, originally in the comic books, but they ended up putting her in the comics at one point.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
because of the show.
The most recent Man of Steel movie, they have like a garage or something, and it says Sullivan's or whatever. So she's the Sullivans have kind of become a part of that, universe.
Wasn't aware
now.
of that.
Yeah, kind of weird.
There's a lot of cool Easter eggs in Man of Steel.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah. I anticipate good things for that. So,
but one glaring omission from your list, The Office.
Well, I didn't watch The Office. I didn't know.
Well, I need to throw it out there because once Steve Carell left,
it was bad.
It dropped so
oh yeah,
far
they could have wrote a book on how to ruin a sitcom after Steve Carell left.
But at the same time, like you were talking about with Prison Break, they got the ending right.
Yeah, one of the greatest finales of a sitcom that has been out for a long time. They did a really good job. And what was interesting is because
did they bring Steve Carell back for the end?
They did.
Yes.
And he didn't have a big role in the final episode. But what they did is they kind of gave you a nod that you've been watching these characters for so long. We know you care about them, so we're going to give you kind of an appropriate goodbye. It was kind of neat.
Yeah, kind of a happy ending, but not like a cheesy one. Where it's overly sappy or anything.
Yeah, and they kind of did it in Office style. It was kind of funny, like one of Steve Carell's comments is like, it's like all my kids are grown and they married each other. So it was funny stuff.
Well, do you want to run through one of your top tens?
Yeah, I can run through. Now this is I know you're gonna argue with some of these, and this is here's my thought for mine. Mine is the most underappreciated movies of all time. So these are what, in my mind, are good or at least decent movies that could get a little more love. Now, some of these are really good movies, but I don't think they're given quite the nod that they should be. That's what I'm saying. All right. So I'm even questioning my own number 10 here.
Okay.
But when I piece this together, number 10, I said Karate Kid.
You think it's underappreciated?
I apparently, when I wrote this list, I thought it was underappreciated. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, what was I thinking?
I think it's kind of an iconic film.
You got to keep in mind, I work late vampire hours. So apparently at 3 a.m. one morning when I'm not, when I'm totally on my break. And so I kind of threw this together one night and, at 3 a.m. and I'm like, whoa. So I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm like, Karate Kid, what was David Merle at 3 a.m. thinking? All right, so we're going to move on. Number 9, Prince of Egypt. I think that in terms of animation, we hear a lot about Pixar, but I think that this is an incredible movie.
I really like Prince of Egypt.
And I just don't think that, you rarely see it on TV. I don't know. I think in terms of animated movies, I think kids would enjoy it. I think it's a good story. I think it's they show respect and character to the biblical story we love, and I think it could get a little more love out there in culture.
I always wanted the sequel to the Prince of Egypt. So at the end, he's coming down the mountain, and they ended up on this really dramatic note, and he's pleased at what has kind of become. Mm-hmm. And then if they would have gone on a little further, doesn't he come down the mountain to find people having orgies and crazy?
So all right.
They just ended it a bit too soon.
All right.
It's very convenient the way they ended that film.
You got to check the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The alternate ending.
I appreciate it as is. I'm trying to give
family friendly that sequel.
Trying to give this movie a little more appreciation. Number 8, Contact. I thought that was a good film.
I don't think I ever saw Contact.
Yeah.
Never saw it.
Never seen Contact?
What was it about? It was aliens, I imagine.
Yeah, it was about contact with. I think you're just gonna have to. I'm pulling from my brain here. Is her name Jodie Foster? I think, and I think it's Matthew McConaughey or something like that. And so they have these satellites that basically make contact with this alien communication, and it's the journey she goes there. And I believe Matthew McConaughey plays it like a minister that writes books and stuff. And so, and it's the relationship there. And the ending is and there's kind of this religious, scientific dialogue that goes along. And then at the end, he makes this comment about at the end of the day, I'm paraphrasing that. So the moral, spoiler alert, the moral kind of is both science and religion, the pursuit is truth. And so... And I don't know, but it has you interested, and it talks about her journey.
All right.
She gets the, and they should add a little dazed and confused into Contact. It's number 7, Enemy of the State. I think that's a good film.
Will Smith?
Yeah,
that's a great film.
But I don't think it gets enough love. When you talk about great films, people don't always mention Enemy of the State. It was
scary. It's kind of an eerie movie.
It's kind of what?
Eerie.
It is scary. I mean, and it is scary.
And then, years later, the NSA is doing crazy stuff.
Right. When it first came out, you were kind of like, I wonder if the government could do that. And now you're like, the government might be able to do that.
The government probably does that. They probably do.
I don't know if they could target, I don't know if they could target a specific person like that, like they did in Enemy of the State, but they definitely probably spy on people.
Pretty sure there's a drone, pointed at my house.
So, maybe. I've read your stuff online, and, number 6, great movie, but for whatever reason, you don't hear about it out there in pop culture as a great movie as much as I think you'd like to, or as I'd like to, is The Patriot. I think it's underappreciated, even though I think we all talk
Didn't it win Academy Awards?
So, probably.
It's just a hard movie to watch over and over again, though.
Yeah. So, sure. All right. Number 5, Big with Tom Hanks.
That's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
great movie.
Do you think it gets the love it should?
I don't know. Did it at the time? I was a little boy, so I don't know.
People were talking about Big at the time. It was kind of the rage. But Big is one of those films that you can watch on any Saturday afternoon, and you're entertained every time.
Well, he got nominated for an Oscar for that, and you don't see that from a comedy very often.
True.
Right.
True. But maybe I should add a little bit of stand the test of time, because I think that some of these, some of my next examples are not the timeless ones that the others. Okay. All right, number 4, The Green Mile.
Walking the Green Mile.
Love that movie.
Yeah?
You like The Green Mile?
Yeah, again, good movie, really good movie.
Yeah.
Hard to watch multiple times.
Huh. So, you feel... have you ever seen The Green Mile, Jason?
You know, the weird thing is, I've rented it twice, but I still never got around to watching it.
Wow. Rented it twice, never watched it. A great film. All right, here we go. Here's where my list probably gets a little interesting. I might lose you here. Number 3, the Adam Sandler version of The Longest Yard. I can watch that over and over.
It was a good one. I don't think it was one of Sandler's best.
So
I'll take
I
the original any
underappreciate it,
day of the
maybe.
week.
So
I haven't
you know
seen the
what?
original.
I haven't watched the original. I'm gonna be honest. I'd like to. I have the opportunity on Netflix or whatever.
Courtney Love at the beginning of The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler. Smoking hot, though, by the way.
So is it Courtney Love?
Or not Courtney Love. No, oh, gosh. Forgive that mistake.
Like, what version are you watching?
Courtney Cox.
Right, Courtney.
So much different than Courtney Love. There's a big difference there.
But in the
Yeah.
original version with Burt Reynolds, you know, there was a scene where there was a defensive player for the inmates that
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds' team couldn't do anything with. So Burt Reynolds just said, guys, let him through. So they didn't block him. He came at him. Burt Reynolds takes a football, throws it, hits him right in the groin. So the guy falls over and collapses. In the Adam Sandler version, he hit the ref. And so, you know, the guy gets up. He's dizzy. He walks back to the huddle. Burt Reynolds calls his guys over and goes, all right, guys, same play.
Right.
Now, I'm a pro wrestling fan, so I appreciated that they used Stone Cold Steve Austin in that film. Kevin Nash was in that film.
Yeah,
Great
they had
Khali.
Yeah.
They had a lot of kind of hodgepodge of celebrities. They had some rappers,
Nelly.
they had some sports athletes, some pro wrestlers, comedians. So it was kind of, but I think they had to do that because you can't. Well, first of all, you had to get some people that you would believe were actually in prison and tough. So,
Sure.
so wrestlers and rappers are actually kind of probably emerged to the top of that list.
Yeah.
And you don't want guys that are so famous that
Right.
that it becomes like Valentine's Day or something like you had mentioned.
Oh, man. So bad.
Number 2, I can't believe I did this, but I threw 2 Adam Sandler movies on there. But the first Grown Ups, I think that it's a good film.
That to me would be one of those movies where they threw too many people in and expected that to make it funny, and I just didn't think it
Well,
was.
they only. How many celebrities do you think? Like real big. They got the main crew there, and then
they do, but they overdid it, I guess.
Here's the deal.
Because they were all kind of main characters versus supporting actors.
True, but I think why I like that movie, and here's why I probably think it's underappreciated, is because when I watch that film, that is like what it is for me and my high school buddies to get together when when I go back to Hartford City. That's kind of like what it looks like. Or
That makes sense.
I don't know. So
I don't have high school buddies.
There's
So I don't know.
so I think there's some kind of sentimental vibe there. It's like, oh yeah, I totally get that. That's kind of how my weekend would go if I would get back with the old crew. So number 1, I think is probably my best on the list.
Well, it should be.
True, but I'm hoping that you'll agree with me here. I think this is a great movie. I think it's underappreciated. Catch Me If You Can, with Tom Hanks and Leonardo.
I love that movie.
I think it's a great movie. What's your deal? You seem half asleep when I even try to say that word there. So.
No, it's cute.
It's cute.
Yeah, it has some good actors in it. It's not funny enough to be a memorable comedy, but it's not dramatic enough to be a memorable drama. So you just have kind of this fun, kind of puffy movie. I don't know.
When I was kind of piecing this list together, I was kind of trying to put something together that you don't list together, where you don't hear a lot of people kind of bragging about these movies, but something you could sit on a Saturday afternoon and watch every weekend. And that's
I respect that, and I understand it only because I will probably watch Blast from the Past anytime it comes on TV. And I know that is definitely in the same camp.
Okay, all right.
With probably less qualified actors.
So who's the guy in that Blast from the Past?
Brendan Fraser.
See, I can't sit through a Brendan Fraser film.
I love Brendan Fraser. He made some really bad movies, and a lot of it had to do with the financial situation. He got divorced, and his wife took him for everything that he had, and so he had to make money.
Dudley Do-Right?
Somehow.
And,
Dudley Do-Right, George of the Jungle, some Looney Tunes movie that he did. But I'm
You
telling
know what? I don't blame him.
He's
but
had a lot of good movies, too.
I don't blame him
For
for
me.
making those movies, but that would probably be the kind of career that anyone that, like, if you and I walked into Hollywood today and they're like, hey, you want to make Dudley do right? We'd be like, yeah, I'll make Dudley. I mean,
Yeah, just so you could get it foot in the door.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
these foot in the door opportunities or whatever.
Yeah.
And so-
He did a couple episodes of Scrubs, and he was really good on
He
them.
did great, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he did a great job in Crash, which had a lot of people in it, but it was still a good movie. I'm always going to love Encino Man. It's one of my all-time favorites.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't understand the words in that order. I love and
I love Encino Man.
Wow.
That is up there with, it's probably, if I had to make my top 10 list of my all-time favorite films, Encino Man would be in there with, the Dead Poets Society and Weird Science.
Weird Science. I like Weird Science. I love
Yeah.
that film. That classic 80s flick, Weird
Yeah.
Science. Breakfast Club's a good one, too.
I can't do Breakfast Club.
What do you mean
But-
you can't do Breakfast Club?
All the characters irritated me in the Breakfast Club.
All the characters irritating.
Yeah.
So they didn't pick your clique that you were in high school.
I didn't have a clique.
So they didn't add the Joe Ruiz character.
So I would have essentially been sitting in that detention hall, and I would have been one of the characters.
You would have had to write your own paper because you wouldn't have joined the Breakfast Club.
Yes. Yes.
I'm Joe Ruiz. And
Yes. I'm starting my own club.
I'm the Narc Club. Here's what
I'm going to start the brunch club because I don't like to wake up that early.
Right. Huh. So now I would have told you back in the day because I was on the wrestling team when that came out, that I was the Emilio Estevez character. I don't know in reality which one that I really was. Probably Anthony Michael Hall or something like that. I don't know.
I just don't none of the characters were likable because you got your jock with roid rages,
You okay?
and you've got your bad boy who was just greasy and somehow yet ended up with a girl.
I think he's my favorite character.
He wasn't even the kind of guy you'd look at and say yeah, he's a bad dude or whatever. But
you
I can
felt
see
bad.
why the chicks dig him.
Yeah.
He wasn't even that guy. He was
Right.
just this doofus.
That role almost went to Nicolas Cage.
Really?
Yeah.
That would have
Huh.
been interesting. But it probably would have been in the same thing though, because he's not the kind of guy you want to be like or anything. Then you've got your snobbish, rich girl with baggage and emotional issues. You've
Wow,
got
you
your extremely dirty girl who is just unattractive throughout the entire film, who you don't want to look at because you're afraid you'll get head lice.
You're just hating on the Breakfast Club. this is such an interesting version of what most people kind of look at as these misfits that together become beautiful, and you just this is not 1 minute of beauty.
No, this is
just-
no, you're misfits for a reason. That's how I saw the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, you need more Saturdays
Yeah.
in Saturday school. The principal's my
Yeah.
hero.
You know what the best part of the Breakfast Club
Joe
was?
is rooting for the principal in the film.
You know what the best part of the Breakfast Club was?
What's that?
The ending credits.
Oh, how did I not know that was where that was going? So, I don't know if I've met someone that doesn't have at least some degree of appreciation for the Breakfast Club. Not only to mention, you just-
that's a
you just-
fabrication. I
you-
just said I appreciate the
oh,
ending credits.
Right. So, do you at least like the Simple Minds song about?
Sure, yeah. I at
That-
least like the
that's a
Simple
great
Minds song.
That's like the '80s anthem.
Yeah, I can get that much.
So, right.
So that was number one.
Yeah, Catch Me If You Can, which is a musical, by the way, which I wouldn't mind going to see.
Well, I love Tom Hanks. I'll say that much. Tom Hanks is one of the best actors ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tom Hanks is a great actor. Has he done anything bad? I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure he's done a couple bad
Yeah,
things.
we'd
I
have
don't
to.
know,
Maybe
but
that's a list we could put together. Top
Yeah.
10 worst Tom Hanks films.
I don't even know if you could find 10 of them.
I know because you'd probably get to number 10 and be like Forrest Gump. You know?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, which is like it was a great movie.
Like right, somewhere it would overlap into these great films.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of interesting.
Well, an hour and a half into the show, let's go ahead and tip the cap to end the show. The 10th episode of the Culture and Arts Podcast. This is not just tipping the cap. This is tipping a cap on the 10th episode. So you got to make it count.
Oh wow!
Make
Okay,
it count. Make it special.
Well, let me forget my first idea.
right? No kidding.
Jason, who are you going to roll with today?
I'm going to tip my cap to Mother Nature for finally getting rid of some of this snow.
Yeah, well, that's a
Right.
good one. That's a good one.
Right,
I do
right.
appreciate getting rid of that.
I'm going to tip the cap to Wisconsin because if they win the brackets, or if they win this tourney, I win the brackets. So I'm hoping to give them some positive love out there. So,
man, I'm gonna tip the cap to April because it'll be the end of March Madness.
Right.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you have the 10th episode of the Culture and Arts Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed yourself and that you found some very entertaining elements to the show. Go out and watch some of the films and some of the TV shows that we referenced, and see if you share the opinions, and let us have your input on Twitter as how you felt about the things that we discussed today. And you can agree with me there about the Breakfast Club in any fashion that you choose.
That ain't going to happen.
In the challenge accepted.
Right.
But we appreciate you listening to the show. We tip the cap to you, and we will see you next week.